Hello, my name's John, and I'd like to take the time to tell you about some of the interesting things I learned in art appreciation. We learned a lot about all types of art forms, including drawing, painting, printmaking, photography, sculpture, craft media, architecture, and even the formal element of art, including a line, shapes, light and color, texture, and the principles of design. First, I'd like to discuss one of my favorite paintings by J.M.W. Turner, titled Rain, Steam, and Speed, The Great Western Railway. The way the water, land, sky, and steam engine come together makes for an almost ethereal moment. The hazy atmosphere that was caused by the torrential rain intertwined with the foggy clouds of steam from the speeding train give the painting its weight. Turner also employs a vanishing perspective that forces the viewer's eyes to scan through the painting, helping to intensify the feeling of the train speeding forwards. All of the natural elements come together to stand in stark contrast to the iron beast rushing towards the viewer. Turner uses the strong colors of yellow to give his painting a sense of unity and design. He also utilizes vanishing lines on the bridge, again forcing the viewer's eyes to follow them through the painting, giving a sense of speed. The painting seems slightly off balance with the massive train speeding towards you in the right of the frame, with the much smaller distant bridge and boaters to the left. Turner certainly uses texture with his oil painting to help give the overall feel of the rain and steam coming together so intensely. Turner was well known for his use of light and the atmosphere in his paintings, and Rain, Steam, and Speed was no different. He was influenced by Nicolas Poussin, who is considered by many to be the romantic prelude to Impressionism. He also may have been trying to contrast the divine, almost surrealistic background and atmosphere with the speeding train, demonstrating that these man made industrialized behemoths were set to take over their previously serene countryside. It may be surprising, but Turner's later work was often met with scornful criticisms, and this included Rain, Steam, and Speed. One critic from a fellow artist, John Ruskin, could not understand why Turner even felt it necessary to engage with such unattractive modern subject matter. Despite his detractors, Turner had some foresight by including the clunky, unattractive train in his paintings at the tail end of the Industrial Revolution. Turner was a painter who used oil and watercolor for the most part, but there are many other types and techniques that artists employ. I'd like to talk about a few of those now, including graphite drawing, sculpture, and photography. Graphite drawing is a skill that typically uses lines and shapes to create a composition. This should show depth, contrast, light, and shadow, and if done well, will give the impression of dimension. Some of the most skilled artists can give their graphite drawings a sense of photorealism that almost tricks the viewer into thinking the drawings are photographs. An intense focus on shadow and blending must be employed to achieve these levels, and one of my favorite artists to employ this technique is Paul Cadden of the United Kingdom. He typically draws from existing photographs, but his hyper-realistic portrayals will cause even the most experienced critic to question their authenticity. A technique that is drastically different from graphite drawing is the sculpture's medium. The main thing that differentiates sculpture from other techniques is the three-dimensionality of the work. There are many mediums used, but the most common are stone, metal, ceramics, and wood. It usually involves the process of carving or removing of material or modeling, the addition of material. The sculpture pieces that typically have survived the century have been stone, and one of the most famous sculptors is Michelangelo. He was, of course, a wildly famous painter, architect as well. Widely renowned as an artistic genius and a melancholy, temperamental figure, he was fascinated with the human form and believed it was the ultimate expression of human spirituality, sensibility, and beauty. The last technique I'd like to discuss is photography. Photography as an artistic technique always fascinated me because it seems so much more attainable as an art form than other techniques. Perhaps because we can all pull out our cell phones and snap a few shots of our kids, we feel we can be called a photographer. But really, photography, when done well, requires a lot of skill. Technically, photography is the application of creating durable images by recording light on either an image sensor or photographic film. But I'd like to view it from a much more artistic framework. I've particularly always been intrigued by landscape photography and how an entire scene can be taken in with all the intricate details present. Depending on the time of day and the settings on the camera, the photographer can choose to set the mood in so many ways. Of course, one of the most famous landscape photographers is Ansel Adams. The way he was able to capture black and white photographs of the American West is unbelievable, considering the photographic technology he was using. His photos of Yosemite, in particular, are stunning and are a time capsule into our American heritage and past. We really learned a lot in this class, and now I'd like to talk about three of my favorite works of art and the artists that created them. I've always been partial to expressionistic paintings, and Edward Munch's painting, The Scream, is one of the most famous. The painting was actually autobiographical and is based on Munch's actual experience of a scream piercing through nature while on a walk. The way Munch's body seems to flow into the painting and into the lines and curves behind him makes the scream almost audible. The color he employs, with a dark orange sky set perfectly against the dark foreground, truly haunting painting that was painted over 100 years ago. I'd now like to discuss a work of architecture and of the most famous American architects, Frank Lloyd Wright, and one of his stunning homes titled Falling Water. Amazingly, it was built between 1936 and 1939 and was perched over a waterfall in Pennsylvania. It's remarkable in its use of concrete that seemingly floats above the waterfall over 30 feet. Wright told the family he was building the house so that he wanted them to live with the waterfalls, to make them part of their everyday life, and not just to look at them every now and then. Wright wanted his homes to be a part of nature and not just set to view nature. Next, I'd like to discuss one of the most iconic photographs of all time, taken by Alfred Eisenstadt, entitled The Kiss, and was published in Life magazine and became a cultural icon almost instantly. Interestingly enough, Eisenstadt claims that he watched the sailor grab every female he could find and kiss them all before Eisenstadt captured the iconic pose. Whatever the pretense behind the photograph, it captured what everyone was feeling at the time, all poured in this one shot. The joy that the war had ended and life could return to normal was told perfectly in this one shot. We've looked at quite a few examples, and you can see how influential art can be in our world. Art can be used to influence society by changing opinions, instilling values, or give voices to those that are politically or socially disenfranchised. Almost all art attempts to engage society in some way, either influencing or influenced by it. But some works speak more directly to concerns relating to human rights, corruption, the distribution of class, wealth, or power than others. An example of this is West Bank Wall, a quasi-anonymous graffiti artist known as Banksy. His West Bank Wall shows the divide between Israel and Palestine, with an armed guard seemingly pulling back the curtain to show the paradise on the other side, contrasted with the stark gray background of the wall. This overtly political painting helps give the oppressed a voice in the Palestinian conflict. Another example of art's influence is through the photographs taken during World War II. Even though the war was thousands of miles away, the photographs that were taken and disseminated back home helped to galvanize a nation and help them stay committed to the cause. An example of a photograph doing just that is the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima. The photo is cited as being the most reproduced photograph in history and helped in a small way to change the course of the war. Another photograph that helped change society was titled Earthwise and was shot by William Anders in 1968. Anders was an astronaut on the Apollo 8 mission and got one of the first glimpses of Earth from the moon's surface. It helped change the way society thought about our planet and our place in the cosmos. It helped NASA and the US government raise funding for more research into space travel. Art is a way for everyday people to express their feeling and their part in the world. It helps them express emotions that they may not or could not express verbally. Art covers so many broad mediums that there is really a way for everyone to create some form of art. There are many ways that art is made, but in particular, my wife makes digital art creating prints in Photoshop and then selling them on Etsy and social media platforms. You can also make pottery and sell them at craft fairs or through online vendors. The sky is the limit when it comes to how art is made and disseminated these days. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you've enjoyed my short presentation on a few things I've learned in art appreciation.